Attack the Block is a 2011 film directed by Joe Cornish which displays many different beliefs and problems in society at the time and now, giving an insight into the culture of the working class. In the film, we see how the effect of hoodie horror is for characters and people. In the opening scene, Sam is walking along when there is a group of teenagers, all in dark hoodies with the hood up and very little lighting around them. Straight away, we see the fear and anxiousness on her expression because of how the boys are dressed and how they swarm her on bikes. They aren't the typical American gangsters, instead they are just hooded youths, but they still install fear in others. Hoodie horror itself is a convention of the horror genre, but also has aspects of thriller and supernatural, coming from British MPs after them having created the catchphrase Broken Britain, describing the working class because of the poverty of the 2000s, leading to large newspapers to focus on them. The film industry developed this into hoodie horror, which is the image of working class youth from Britain, mainly in big cities like London, making them violent and evil monsters. The director Joe Cornish uses this concept to create what some would call a hero motif, making those people fear and are wary of the saviours and making them defeat the evil monsters. It's a way of defeating the stereotypes and proving that the working class, specifically the teenagers, aren't all that the media and politicians make them out to be. The way Cornish manages to make it so close and perfect to the everyday lives of these people is that he went to youth clubs around working class London and spoke to the teenagers there. He told them about his ideas and he made sure that the dialogue of his characters were how they would speak in real life. He had to do this because he wanted the film to be as close to real life as possible, especially because he didn't grow up in the same time or area as the characters.
Welcome to London, motherfucker.
Welcome to the end, brother.
This is the block, fam. Nobody fucks with the block. Do you get me?
The B-L-O-C-K.
This is a good example of how cultural context is shown in Attack the Block because different cultures speak and converse in different ways. They act in different ways because the environment around a person always affects them, leading to the difference in everyday life. Nature versus nurture. We see this in the difference between how Sam talks and acts compared to the gang.
Thanks. Water's fine. Said it was one of the busiest nights of the year. But they don't even turn up.
She has a much more diverse vocabulary and doesn't speak in the same slang or any slang at all as the gang does. It shows us how she has grown up in a well-versed environment with a lot of opportunities available for her, compared to the gang who are growing up in an environment of drugs, danger and crime, as well as poverty. It's a huge contrast, so it's no surprise to the character's behaviours. She hasn't grown up around that fear and fight for survival against everything the world throws. The boys in the gang have, however. From what we see, they have grown up in a very harsh side of society with a lot of inequality around them. They have a tough time and have to fight to survive in a man-eats-man world, or well, in the film, an alien-eats-man world. For Moses, we see how strong his distrust of others, specifically adults, is from the very start of the film. Later on, it adapts to reveal how he basically lives alone and has very little authority from a parental figure in his life.
Who do you live with?
Just my uncle.
Where's he?
Comes and goes. Goes mostly.
You got a little brother?
No?
How old are you?
15.
You look older.
We see how the police treat him and the gang, displaying the inequality and more reasons for his distrust. Moses comes off as really tough and hard, making him appear older than he actually is, but in reality he's still a teenager, struggling through the world because of what he was born into. We see all this throughout the film, however we also see how the characters adapt, how Moses actually decides to save the day but is still arrested despite of all of what he did. This reflects the London riots of 2011 where the media were quick to blame the teenagers, especially black teenagers. The riots themselves from the 6th to the 11th of August in 2011, 2 months before the film was released. Thousands of people rioted in several boroughs of London, spreading across the country. The riots started after the shooting of Mark Duggan, a black man, by the police in Tottenham. A specific unit in the Met Police, which deal with the gun crime in African and Caribbean communities, were attempting to arrest Mr. Duggan after he had reportedly gotten a gun beforehand. However, the gun itself was 7 meters away from him where he had been shot, no police officers having said they saw him throw it. People wanted justice for his death, protests starting from 300 people outside the station to violence later that night. The media branded those involved as mindless thugs, which is shown in Attack the Block throughout the film. The inequality of the working class, especially the minority, is clearly shown at the very end of the film when Moses and the others are arrested despite them having done nothing wrong. The director has made it so that when Moses walks with the police arrested, he is passing the crowd away.
Moses saved the planet! He saved the planet from alien invasion! The hero! The legend! Moses!
Those
Pull me out! We'll get you help!
when he was in the house, he was and it's very well shown and figured out by Joe Cornish.